Chapter 407. Yan Zhenfei's and the other female students' expressions changed instantly. What happened to finding trouble? How did it become helping Yiqing Luo? Due to Lu Shuelan's status, the both of them had their doubts, but they didn't dare to say a single word. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as she laughed lightly. Help me. Acting vice president is so kind. That's natural. As the faculty council's vice president, I naturally have to be considerate of students. This is the faculty council's aim. Lu Shuelan apparently didn't hear the ridicule in Yiqing Luo's words and thought that she was praising herself as a smile appeared on her face. Yiqing Luo laughed silently in her heart. This Lu Shuelan was really not suitable to stand on such a high ground. Not even a third of her sisters. At least Lu Shueyu knew how to conceal her own thoughts, and other than Si Yenmu's matters, her brain spun extremely quickly. If this Lu Shuelan really became the vice president of the faculty council, she would probably be scolded by Si Yenmu to the point of being drenched with dog's blood. Just one look at Lu Shuelan and Yiqing Luo knew what she was planning. Acting vice president. Yan Zhenfei's brows creased slightly as she gently tugged Lu Shuelan's sleeve. She's not praising. Shut up. Lu Shuelan berated coldly as her expression sunk. Aren't you going to help student Yi clean the library pavilion? Yan Zhenfei lowered her eyelids as she didn't dare to say another word. She pulled the female student next to her into the reading room to help Yiqing Luo tidy up. Everything in the reading room had been tidied up by Qiao Jin and the rest yesterday, so they didn't need their help at all. Moreover, Lu Shuelan didn't have any good intentions. No need. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and stopped the both of them. I don't need any help. If there's nothing, please leave and don't disturb me. She had tried her best to make her tone gentle and polite. But the three of them apparently didn't think so. Yan Zhenfei was originally suppressing a ball of fire in her heart because of Lu Shuelan's command, and without thinking, she pointed at Yiqing Luo and rebuked, "Don't be unappreciative. Acting vice president asked us to help you because he thinks highly of you. What right do you have to reject him?" That's right, a student from the devil class, with such a notorious reputation, how dare he act so arrogantly? Another female student was also displeased. They were all high profound class students and had always been used to being high and mighty. Since when was it the turn of a devil class student to point fingers? Paw! A bright red handprint appeared on Yan Zhenfei's face. She screamed in pain and covered her face. Her cheeks were swollen. She stared at Yiqing Luo but realized that Yiqing Luo was standing at the same spot, as though she had not moved at all. But Yiqing Luo raised her fair little hand and gently stroked it, totally indicating that this slap was from her. "You're really thick-skinned, it hurts my hand." Yiqing Luo looked like she was hit inside. "My poor little hand, sigh." "You." Yan Zhenfei's eyes were red. This slap had almost caused her teeth to fall out. It was so painful that when she moved her facial muscles slightly, she felt a tearing pain. Yiqing Luo totally didn't bother about Yan Zhenfei's anger as she slowly turned her head and looked at the female student on the side. The female student subconsciously covered her face filled with horror. How on earth did Yiqing Luo's slap land on her? They totally didn't see Yiqing Luo moving at all. Yiqing Luo. Lu Shuelan's expression wasn't too good as her forced smile froze on her face. Although Yiqing Luo's slap landed on Yan Zhenfei's face. Chapter 408. Yiqing Luo sneered, "I don't have a good temper, don't come and provoke me if you don't have the ability, otherwise I'll beat up whoever comes." Lu Shuelan narrowed her eyes as her eerie gaze sized up Yiqing Luo's hand. 2 days ago, she had heard Yiqing Jian mention that Yiqing Luo was the one who trained the intruders in the forest. She had just become the acting vice president, and such a huge incident had already happened. If the news spread to the elder quarters, Elder Yunxiang would not be the only one to suffer, she would as well. Yesterday there was the matter of an outside assassin trying to assassinate Yi-Ching Luo, causing the Academy's students to be on tenterhooks as they started to question the Academy's safety. There were even some students from the high profound class who didn't keep their mouths shut and revealed the trespassers. They were all guessing if the intruders that day were these assassins. In this time of panic, the students placed their hopes on the faculty council. Lu Shuelon was also very anxious. If the intruders were killers, then those intruders absolutely had nothing to do with Yi-Ching Luo. Especially when they heard Sheng Wanfangyi mention that when they tested Yi-Ching Luo obviously didn't seem to have suffered any internal injury, and even gave Yi-Ching Jian a good thrashing. Today she heard that Yi-Ching Luo had been punished by the instructors, and had agreed with Intermediate Profound Class 2's class monitor, Xia Yan, that Devil class would join in the interclass competition 8 months later. He became even more suspicious. Under Yan Zhenfei's invitation, Lu Shuelon decided to come to the library to take a look. To test if Yi-Ching Luo was injured, and at the same time, to rope Yi-Ching Luo in to get rid of Lu Shueyu completely. What Lu Shuelon had not expected was that Yi-Ching Luo totally didn't fall for her tricks. Yi-Ching Luo, you've offended so many people, I'd like to see what other backing you have and how long you can stay in the Heavenly Academy. Lu Shuelon's beautiful eyes were gloomy as she stared fiercely at Yi-Ching Luo. Since they couldn't be allies, they were enemies. Anyway, Yi-Ching Luo and Lu Shueyu's relationship was like fire and water, so she wasn't worried that Yi-Ching Luo would join hands with Lu Shueyu. Lu Shuelon snorted coldly. Just when she was about to leave, she heard the administrator's loud voice coming from the second floor. Students of the high profound class, just read your books, don't keep yelling. If you don't want to read, then scram. As he spoke, the administrator walked over. On seeing Yi-Ching Luo, that incomparably fierce face revealed anger. It's you again. What are you doing in the library all day long? Seeing the administrator appear, a cunning look flashed across Yan Zhenfei's eyes. The hostility between her brows immediately disappeared, and she put on a pitiful look. She covered her face and sobbed softly, Administrator, we just came here to look for some cultivation books to read. Classmate Yi beat me up without any explanation. Vice President Dai and classmate Fong were just standing up for me, so their voices were a little louder. Hearing Yan Zhenfei's words and seeing the handprint on her face, the administrator's face darkened. He directly stretched out his hand towards Yi-Ching Luo as he tugged her collar. A student like you, my library pavilion doesn't welcome you. Making trouble all day long, get out of here. I'll talk to your instructor later and ask him not to throw people into the library when he punishes you. But just as his hand was about to grab Yi-Ching Luo's collar, a white shadow flashed past. The administrator hadn't managed to react in time when his wrist instantly turned numb. He clutched his arm and didn't make any sound, but his face was filled with agony. It was so painful that his face turned pale, as he broke out in cold sweat. He clenched his teeth, enduring the pain as he looked at the thing which had struck his wrist. A white porcelain bottle fell onto the floor, as it shook slightly. That was a porcelain bottle which stored pills. This porcelain bottle. Why did it look a little like? Chapter 409. The door of the alchemy room, which had always been tightly shut, was now half open. The dazzling luminous pearl cast a long shadow. Ghost Doctor was filled with a vicious aura as he stood at the entrance with a gloomy expression, his gaze staring eerily in the direction of Yi-Ching Luo and the others. The administrator lowered his head in fear. Lord Ghost Doctor. The 3 female students beside him had been in the academy for many years, so they had naturally heard of the rumors about the Ghost Doctor. They also knew that the medicine refining room was a forbidden area on the second floor of the library. Whether it was the high profound class or the class of gods, no one was allowed to step into the forbidden area. Because of this, no one had ever seen the Ghost Doctor herself. When he heard the administrators shout, his eyes immediately widened. How lucky were they today, to actually meet the elusive Ghost Doctor. Lu Shuelon was the first to react. She hurriedly dragged the two female students behind her and lowered her head towards the ghost doctor. Lord Ghost Doctor. The ghost doctor's face was dark and cold, her gaze was like a sharp knife as she stared coldly at the administrator. The administrator felt goosebumps all over his body as he broke out in a cold sweat. Lord Ghost Doctor, I'm really sorry. I've let a few ignorant students disturb your refinement. I'll chase them out right now. The administrator thought that the ghost doctor's rage was entirely because these students had interrupted his concoction. Enduring the sharp pain in his wrist, he grabbed another student with each hand and walked out. But when his hand stretched out towards Yiqing Luo once again, ghost doctor's porcelain bottle struck his wrist once again. It was precisely in the same position. This time, it was so painful that the manager cried out on the spot. He clutched his wrist and looked at the ghost doctor with a face full of fear and confusion. When Lu Shuelon and the others saw this, they did not dare to make a sound. They lowered their heads, hoping that their presence would be reduced to the minimum. Come here. The ghost doctor's voice was ice cold, his gaze cold. The administrator's sturdy body suddenly trembled. The sharp pain in his arm caused his face to contort in pain. Hearing the ghost doctor's words, no matter how scared he was, he didn't dare to retort. Lifting his feet, he walked towards the ghost doctor. But a slender figure was even faster than him and walked in front of him. Yiqing Luo's footsteps were light and graceful, as though there wasn't a single bit of fear or terror, nor did she tremble from the powerful pressure that ghost doctor had unleashed. She walked straight towards the ghost doctor, openly. Hey! Get back here! That was the ghost doctor. If you offend the ghost doctor, even if you die 10 times, it won't be enough to compensate. The manager's face instantly turned pale. He had been a librarian in the academy for decades and had always been in charge of the library. Naturally, he knew the ghost doctor's temper and personality. He hated trouble and didn't think about the academy at all. There was once a student who kept pestering him to learn the skills of refining medicine, but was beaten out by the ghost doctor with a single palm strike. That student was seriously injured and had to leave the academy. Later on, it was said that he had completely become a cripple. However, the one who made the move was the ghost doctor. That student's family did not dare to cause trouble for the academy. Student Yi. The administrator saw Yiqing Luo walking towards ghost doctor's direction in a daze. He endured the pain in his wrist as he dashed forward, trying to pull Yiqing Luo back. Although he didn't have any good impression of Yiqing Luo, but she was after all a student of the academy, and as a senior figure in the academy, he wasn't willing to see any student getting hurt. But the scene in front of him caused the administrator to suddenly stop in his tracks. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. He saw Yiqing Luo walking in front of Ghost Doctor and nodding her head slightly at him, Senior Ghost Doctor. Chapter 410. The administrator and the 3 female students behind him were all stunned. Especially the administrator, his mouth was agape as his face was filled with disbelief. Had he developed an auditory hallucination, developing hallucinations? Sir Ghost Doctor actually didn't slap that student out. He actually used such an amiable tone to speak to that student. If Yiqing Luo knew the administrator's inner thoughts, she would probably ridicule endlessly. Damn it. This is called amiable? This fiendish look, as though I owe him 1,800,000 coins, this is also called amiable. However, in the administrator's eyes, he was used to seeing how Ghost Doctor ruthlessly slapped one after another. Ghost Doctor didn't take any action and only said a few words, which was already considered as the most amiable. Who asked my disciple to scram out? Ghost Doctor's vision shifted away from Yiqing Luo, locking onto the administrator. When the administrator heard the 2 words, disciple, he was instantly struck by lightning from a clear sky. His ears were filled with the sound of thunder exploding. Not only him, Lu Shuelan, Yan Zhenfei and the others also had a look as though they had seen a ghost. Yiqing Luo was Ghost Doctor's disciple? How could that be possible? Lu Shuelan was just hooting, saying that Yiqing Luo no longer had any backing and now a Ghost Doctor appeared. She felt as though her face was being slapped. Her hands, which were hanging by the side of her body, clenched tightly into fists. Why was Yiqing Luo so lucky? What mysterious and noble people all became her backing? First it was the Overlord, then it was Guiyu, and now a Ghost Doctor. Lu Shuelan was so hateful that her lungs were about to explode. But on her face, she didn't dare to reveal any of it. The administrator's well-built body kept trembling as his voice trembled. Ghost, Sir Ghost Doctor, I didn't know that student Yi is your disciple. How would I dare to ask her to scram? Ghost Doctor gave a cold laugh. The administrator trembled even more violently. He suddenly slapped his own face. Left and right slaps, the strength was huge. 2 slaps and his entire face swelled up. Sir Ghost Doctor, the one who spoke rudely was me, the one who had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai is also me, it has nothing to do with these students. The administrator raised his head, and after meeting the Ghost Doctor's eyes, he immediately lowered his head again. I beg Lord Ghost Doctor, please release this group of students. When Lu Shuelan heard this, her face immediately turned pale. She dragged the 2 female students and knelt on the ground. Yes. This matter has nothing to do with us. It was the administrator who told student Yi to get out. We don't know anything. These words really made one's heart turn cold. The administrator only glanced at them, and also knelt down. It's my fault, I beg Lord Ghost Doctor to let these students go. Yiqing Luo slowly narrowed her eyes as she swept past Lu Shuelan and the others who were kneeling on the ground, as she sneered. This smile seemed exceptionally clear and ethereal in the empty library, adding some mysteriousness to it. The Ghost Doctor turned her head and glanced at her, her expression cold. Then, she said lightly, since you spoke rudely, you have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. Why do you still need this mouth and this pair of eyes? Hearing these words, the manager's face instantly turned pale. Lu Shuelan, who was kneeling on the ground, turned soft, as she was so frightened that she directly knelt down on the ground. The administrator glanced sideways at the 3 frightened students behind him, as he clenched his teeth. Yes, spoke rudely, you have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. This mouth, this pair of eyes, indeed cannot be kept. Saying that, he raised his hand and congealed a burst of profound qi, as he stabbed towards his own eyes. Chapter 411. Dong, a soft sound was heard and the administrator gave a muffled groan. Lu Shuelan and the others slowly opened their eyes and saw a bewitching red glow flashing past. That was Yiqing Luo's feather fan, like a ball of blazing fire, forming an arc in mid-air as it returned to Yiqing Luo's hand. Whereas the administrator who was struck by that feather fan earlier, his sturdy body was on the verge of collapsing onto the ground. Disciple is not satisfied with the way you handled this. Ghost Doctor squinted his eyes as he stared coldly at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo waved her feather fan and pressed against her lower lip as she casually brushed past the administrator and gave a faint laugh. Since administrator has already admitted his mistake, then let's just forget about this matter. Ghost Doctor gave a cold laugh. The administrator laid on the ground as his clothes were soaked in sweat. He trembled as he climbed up and was just about to continue kneeling when he heard Ghost Doctor's cold voice, still not going to scram. The administrator was stunned as his eyes revealed a look of ecstasy. In other words, Ghost Doctor had let him off. He immediately kowtowed on the ground. Thank you, Sir Ghost Doctor, thank you, Student Yi. Saying that, he got up and dragged the 3 female students as he speedily left the 2nd story of the library pavilion, not daring to stay any longer. Yiqing Luo saw the administrator leaving and cupped her fists towards Ghost Doctor. Thank you, Senior Ghost Doctor, for stepping forward. Humph. Ghost Doctor flicked his sleeves as he turned around and walked into the pill refining room. Yi-Ching Luo rubbed her nose as she followed him in. She was very curious, why would the Ghost Doctor, who had always hated trouble, get involved in such a dispute? Just a single disagreement and he would lose his mouth and eyes, so brutal and bloody. Stand up for her. It seemed like in Ghost Doctor's heart, she hadn't reached the level where he would stand up for her. After Ghost Doctor entered the pill refining room, he stared eerily at Yi-Ching Luo as his half-squinted eyes revealed a sense of scrutiny. Yi-Ching Luo's hair stood on end from his stare as she had a taste of the administrator's feeling earlier, and it wasn't a good feeling. Why did you help him? After a while, Ghost Doctor asked coldly. Help him? Yi-Ching Luo blinked her eyes in puzzlement as she realized that he was referring to the administrator. No reason, I just feel that the Academy's elders who are thinking for the students are worthy of respect. Yi-Ching Luo replied calmly. Seeing that the administrator was even willing to destroy his own eyes so that Lu Shuelon and the others could leave unscathed, this action made Yi-Ching Luo recall that when she walked towards Ghost Doctor, he had also disregarded Ghost Doctor's prestige and wanted to go up to stop her. This action aroused her compassion. Although the administrator was a little fierce and his words were a little harsh, his heart for the sake of the students was sincere. In this dirty academy, there was still someone with such a pure heart. Yi-Ching Luo respected him. Hearing Yi-Ching Luo's reply, Ghost Doctor gave a cold harumph. You're rather kind. Kind? Yi-Ching Luo smiled in disbelief. Perhaps, the current her was indeed much more soft-hearted than before. This word had nothing to do with her in the past. But ever since she came to this strange world and met people who melted the ice in her heart, she was indeed living more and more like a human. However, she liked her current self very much. At least he had flesh and blood, and he had his own feelings. Unlike before, he was like a cold killing machine, living like that. Her lips curled as she smiled. Isn't Senior Ghost Doctor the same as well? Even if I don't open my mouth to stop him, I'm afraid Senior will stop him. Ghost Doctor's expression was icy cold as he didn't open his mouth to rebuke. Chapter 4:12. The Ghost Doctor stared at the beautiful young lady in front of him. Her smile was very bright, without any impurities, clean and pure. A pair of curved, enchanting eyes were overflowing with color. Recalling what happened earlier, when Yi-Ching Luo was facing the administrator and the other 3 female students, she was calm and unperturbed in the face of danger, her brows loosened slightly. This young lady was getting more and more interesting. His eyes flashed, and he narrowed his sharp eyes. I thought I had already answered! Yi-Ching Luo was shocked, so Ghost Doctor also knew cold humor. She choked on her saliva and coughed violently. She opened her eyes wide and stared fixedly at the Ghost Doctor. The Ghost Doctor's expression hadn't changed from start to finish. Only her eyes had narrowed slightly, revealing a cold glint. Yi-Ching Luo shuddered. Senior Ghost Doctor's meaning is, you're really prepared to take me in as your disciple? Do I look like someone who jokes? The Ghost Doctor snorted coldly. Yi-Ching Luo shook her head immediately. It didn't look like it. Absolutely not at all. That meant, the Ghost Doctor really wanted to take her as his disciple. However, after these 2 days of interaction, she felt that the Ghost Doctor's impression of her wasn't that good. She was just a dispensable existence. When she came back from lunch, she also had a fierce look on her face. Why did he suddenly seem like a different person? Strange. It was too strange. There was definitely a trap. Yi-Ching Luo was vigilant, her eyes were like torches. Senior Gui, just say what you want to say. We're honest people and don't do underhanded things. The Ghost Doctor's eyebrows twitched. As expected, taking in disciples was simply too troublesome. Especially when he was taking in such a weird little girl. He frowned and did not want to get himself into trouble again. He directly asked the question he wanted to ask: where did you learn the secret technique you used before? Secret technique? Yiqing Luo's expression congealed. Could it be that when he used teleportation just now, the ghost doctor had seen him? He wanted to learn about this secret technique from her. Was that why he appeared to help her when the administrator chased her away? That secret technique, if I'm not mistaken, should be the King of Thieves' teleportation secret technique. The ghost doctor's eyes narrowed, sharp and incisive. Teleportation secret technique. The ghost doctor would never make a mistake. Even if tens of thousands of years had passed, he would never forget it. These were their brothers from back then. He stopped his train of thought, his eyes revealing a bit of urgency. If he was able to find out the origin of the secret art from Yiqing Luo, perhaps he might be able to find those few brothers of his. But Ghost Doctor's words had already blocked Yiqing Luo's way out. For the Ghost Doctor to be able to accurately name the secret technique, as well as the creator of this secret technique, she naturally had a deep understanding of secret techniques. Yiqing Luo shouldn't try to use rubbish to bluff him. Yiqing Luo muttered to herself for a moment as she pursed her pink lips slightly, secretly guessing how she should explain the origin of the blink movement's secret art. She naturally couldn't tell anyone about the Azure Dew bracelets. After all, this thing did not belong to this world. Moreover, if news of this were to spread, with her current strength, she would have no way of guarding the Azure Dew bracelet. After pondering for some time, Yiqing Luo decisively decided to drag that evildoer of hers out. Soldiers are trained for a day to be used in a moment. If she didn't make use of DMO Xian's identity now, when would she be able to do so? She nodded her head as she gave a bashful smile. That is indeed the blink movement's secret art. I have some friendship with the Overlord and he felt that my profound grade is too low, making me easily bullied, so he taught me this secret art, so that I can use it to escape. The Ghost Doctor's brows creased. Overlord. Yiqing Luo nodded her head repeatedly. That's right, it's DMO Xian. Decisively aim her target at DMO Xian. The Ghost Doctor remained silent as his eyelids drooped down, muttering softly, Overlord. Overlord. After muttering for some time, he raised his head with an agitated look as his brows creased. You're talking about that Imperial Palace's palace lord who had recently risen. People call him Overlord, DMO Xian. What? There was actually someone in this world who didn't know DMO Xian. Chapter 413. The so-called legend, wasn't it something which everyone in the world didn't know about and knew about? She thought that Ghost Doctor was talking about DMO Xian because he was afraid of DMO Xian's power. She had not expected. Ghost Doctor was thinking, who on earth was DMO Xian? Alright, Ghost Doctor's world only consisted of refining pills and no other miscellaneous stuff. The next time you see that fellow from the Imperial Palace, ask him to come and see me. Ghost Doctor's next sentence was shocking. Yiqing Luo's mouth turned into an O shape once again. He was indeed Ghost Doctor. Even when facing DMO Xian, he totally disregarded him. No, now wasn't the time to be tangled about whether Ghost Doctor recognized DMO Xian or not, but Ghost Doctor wanted to meet DMO Xian. Then wouldn't the matter of her pushing the blame to DMO Xian be exposed? But since Ghost Doctor had already said so, Yiqing Luo could only brace herself as she gave a few dry laughs. No problem, Senior Ghost Doctor's request, even if I have to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of flames, I will definitely do it for you. The blame which she pushed out, even if she had to kneel down, she had to push it down. Towards Yiqing Luo's talkative words, Ghost Doctor's expression didn't change at all. His gaze swept across the pill refining room and discovered that not only were the medicinal cabinets pasted neatly with medicinal herbs' names, even the messy bookshelves were stacked neatly. It had only been a few hours. This young lady's actions were rather fast. It seemed like she knew a lot about medicine refinement. Today, because he saw Yi-Ching Luo displaying her blink movement's secret art, he appeared to help her out of her predicament, saying that he would take her in as his disciple. But at this moment, he felt that his decision was simply right. Although it was a little troublesome, but if he took in a young lady with an extremely strong innate talent in pill refining, then it would save a lot of time in future. Alright, that's all for today, you can go back now. When Ghost Doctor turned his head back, he resumed his cold and aloof look. Saying that, he seemed to have thought of something as his brows creased into a bundle. Take your hand out. Yi-Ching Luo didn't know what was going on, but she still stretched out her hand. Ghost Doctor placed his hand on her pulse and helped to take her pulse. Your body's recovery ability isn't bad at all. If there's no accident, take another medicinal pill tonight and you'll be able to recover completely. Ghost Doctor took her pulse and casually waved Yi-Ching Luo's hand away. Yi-Ching Luo's eyes lit up as her face revealed joy. He thought that he would need 3 to 5 days to fully recover, but he didn't expect that he would be completely healed tonight. The Ghost Doctor's elixirs, as well as the heaven and earth spiritual chi in the spiritual chi treasured land, were of great help to her internal injuries. Tomorrow, the Academy will be on holiday for 3 days. Memorize all these books. Ghost Doctor walked to the front of the bookshelf and his gaze swept across the neatly arranged bookshelf as he casually picked out 3 books and threw them towards Yi-Ching Luo's direction. Yi-Ching Luo caught it firmly and lowered her head to take a look. Of these 3 books, one was an introduction to rare medicinal herbs and their locations, another was a recipe for medicinal pills, and the last one was the detailed steps of refining medicinal pills. It was an entry-level book for refining medicine. Although the current Yi-Ching Luo had already reached the alchemist level of refining pills, but she was after all a half-baked alchemist and her alchemy foundation was still not enough. These books could help her consolidate her foundation. No matter what, no matter how talented one was, one's foundation was the most important. If one's foundation wasn't strong enough, even if one reached the peak, as long as someone pushed slightly from below, it was very likely that they would fall. It was like building a house. If the foundation wasn't strong enough, if there was an earthquake or a strong gale, this house would easily collapse. Yi-Ching Luo nodded her head as she kept those 3 books. Chapter 4:14. When Yi-Ching Luo walked down from the first story of the library pavilion, the administrator who had been fidgeting restlessly at the management counter immediately went up to welcome her. That fierce and rough face now carried a cautious expression. Yi, classmate Yi. When the surrounding students saw this, they all revealed a puzzled expression. Why was the administrator so respectful towards Yi-Ching Luo? As though he was afraid of Yi-Ching Luo. This must be a misconception. One must know that the library pavilion administrator was famous for his bad temper. He would shout at the students if there was any disagreement, and almost half of the students in the academy had been ravaged by his rough voice, which was like a bell. But now, he was actually being so submissive in front of a new student, and a new student from Devil class. Yi-Ching Luo noticed the surrounding students' gazes and knew that Lu Shuelon and the others were so frightened that they left directly, so she didn't dare to reveal the fact that she was Ghost Doctor's disciple. After all, Lu Shuelon and the others hated Yi-Ching Luo to the core. They were very clear that Yi-Ching Luo had many enemies, so how could they possibly reveal the fact that Ghost Doctor was backing her up? Yi-Ching Luo retracted her gaze and curled her lips towards the administrator. Everything will be fine as usual. The administrator responded and stood up to send Yi-Ching Luo out. This action attracted many students' guesses. After Yi-Ching Luo walked out of the library pavilion, she headed towards the Devil class's direction. It was nearing the time for Devil class's training. Yi-Ching Luo was thinking about the matter of accepting the intermediate profound class to participate in the class confrontation. Although Qiao Jin had already agreed to it, but Long Yunzhan was after all Devil class's class monitor, so she still had to talk to him about it. The minute she entered the second door, she heard a lady's crisp voice coming from the training ground. Your battle power isn't bad at all. Do you want to come again? This voice sounded unfamiliar. Devil class had new students again. On the training ground, most of the students had already arrived. Everyone didn't warm up like usual, but gathered in a circle, as though their emotions were ignited, as they waved their arms and shouted. Indistinctly, there were some low shouts and collision sounds from a fight. Not long later, two figures were seen flying out from the crowd, as they rolled onto the ground. The students who had gathered in a circle were shouting excitedly, as they complained to the students who had been sent flying. The two students rubbed their waists and waved their hands. No more, no more. We're convinced. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes, and coincidentally, because those two students were sent flying, the students started to move to the two sides, opening up a path. Yiqing Luo saw a petite young lady dressed in the academy uniform being wrapped up by the crowd. With one hand on her waist, her delicate and exquisite face revealed a complacent smile. Her pitch-black watery eyes flashed with the craftiness of a cat. Yiqing Luo frowned. This was not a student from the devil class. But he looked a little familiar. Just as she was about to step forward to inquire about the situation, Yiqing Luo's chest suddenly surged with a scorching feeling. Her profound heart jade actually started to burn brilliantly in her chest. She stopped in her tracks and covered her chest. Looking at that young lady again, Yiqing Luo was stunned. He was so stunned that he even forgot the burning sensation in his chest. Behind the young girl, a black shadow rose up, like a guardian god, closely following the young girl. What shocked Yiqing Luo the most was, that black shadow was a gigantic phantom of a beast, faintly discernible. That was a cat, a pitch-black agile cat. Glass Luo, that is the bloodline of the beast man race. In her mind, old man Tsung's voice was heard. After the beast man race transform into human form, every time they battle, they will summon their own bloodline, and this is also the bloodline which the contractor will inherit. Chapter 4:15. Old man Tsung's voice was low. Generally speaking, humans can't see that shadow. If the shadow is seen and the enemy directly attacks it, it will cause damage to the original body. His voice revealed some doubt. How can you see the black cat shadow? Yiqing Luo also had doubts in her heart. All of a sudden, her profound heart jade became incomparably hot. When she looked at that young girl again, she could already see the black cat shadow. Could it be related to the profound heart jade? This profound heart jade did not refer to the profound heart jade that Dmo Xian had formed for her. Because it seemed that before Dmo Xian formed the profound heart jade for her, she could already see through the profound grades of Yuqiya and the other trash, as well as the profound heart jade level. And every time, this kind of heat would be transmitted from her chest. What exactly was going on? The young girl in the crowd, because she had defeated many students, was feeling proud of herself when she felt someone staring at her. Following the gaze, when she saw Yiqing Luo's face, the young girl smiled even more brilliantly. Elder sister, I finally see you." That young girl skipped and dashed towards Yiqing Luo. That pair of watery cat-like eyes sparkled with obvious excitement. Yiqing Luo discovered that when the young girl ran over, the black cat shadow behind her gradually disappeared. It seemed that only during battle, this bloodline shadow would appear to provide the young girl with strength. The young girl's hand, hooked onto Yiqing Luo's arm. "Elder sister, thanks to you saving me, I was able to escape this calamity. Kitty has nothing to repay you. From now on I will always follow by elder sister's side and protect elder sister." The young girl's soft hand and that intimate aura, Yiqing Luo didn't have the slightest bit of repulsion. That pair of black eyes overflowing with starlight didn't have the slightest bit of hypocrisy. The beast man race's little cat beast. Where were her ears? And that tail? Yiqing Luo's gaze swept over her head and indeed saw that her two black furry ears were hidden under her hair, and that black tail behind her was also curled up, hidden under her uniform. From this look, she was no different from a human. Oh right, elder sister, I still haven't introduced myself. The young girl smiled sweetly, her eyes sparkling with a lively luster. My name is Kitty Lee. It's Lee as in Leoli, not Lee as in fox. She tilted her head and smiled. Big sister, you can call me Kitty big sister, you don't have to introduce yourself. I know big sister, you're a really, really amazing person. All the big brothers and sisters in the class really admire big sister. Hearing Kitty Lee's words, the surrounding students turned their faces away in embarrassment. No one had expected that Kitty Lee would actually say out those words about them worshipping Yi Qing Luo behind her back, right in front of her face. Looking at those students' distressed looks, Yi Qing Luo's heart suddenly softened. A hint of gentleness also appeared on her beautiful face. Her delicate facial features were extremely gentle. It could be said that she was a peerless beauty. The surrounding students were dumbfounded for a moment. Sister, you're so beautiful. Kitty Lee's curved eyebrows revealed envy as she rubbed her head against Yi Qing Luo's arm. Kitty Cat likes beautiful sister. Do you want to contract Kitty Cat? The soft touch on his arm was like a kitten rubbing against him. Contract her. This was the reason why Yi Qing Luo chose to save her right from the start. To be able to contract a beast man and obtain the cat beast's bloodline inheritance, her own strength would also receive a huge upgrade. According to the current situation, Kitty Lee's ability seemed to be not bad. She was actually able to challenge several students alone. Then why was she in the heavenly training forest and met with the evil schemes of the high profound class students? Chapter 4:16. Contract. The surrounding students looked at each other in dismay. They only knew that the contract was used on magical beasts. Could it be that humans could contract as well? Everyone didn't think too much about it, only thinking that this young lady wanted to follow beside Yi Qing Luo, to be her follower. Who on earth are you? Suddenly, a cold voice was heard from the other end of the training ground. Tong Zi Qing's expression was icy cold, her brows knitted into a bundle as she stared at Kitty Lee with vigilance. From the skills you displayed today, your profound grade must be above Mystic Profound 6th grade. And you don't panic in the face of danger, so you should be someone who is used to fighting. Most importantly, your speed is not wrong, and your reaction is extremely strong. Why would you be caught by the high profound class students in the heavenly training forest, and look so weak? Tong Zi Qing's words completely voiced out the doubts in Yi Qing Luo's heart. Tong Zi Qing didn't understand why Yi Qing Luo risked being found out by the high profound class students to save Kitty Lee. Moreover, Yi Qing Luo was seriously injured by Yi Qing Qian's earth profound great pressure, and all this was because of Kitty Lee. If it wasn't for Kitty Lee, Yi Qing Luo wouldn't be seriously injured, and wouldn't be tested by Yi Qing Qian, and wouldn't be punished by the instructors to tidy up the books in the library pavilion, and wouldn't be so helpless when facing the killers. Yi Qing Luo's current reputation in the academy made her angry. If it wasn't for the assistant class monitor who had been persuading everyone, she might not be able to hold it in and directly beat up those people who were spreading rumors. Kitty Lee let go of Yi Qing Luo's arm, tilted her head and blinked her bright and crafty eyes, because Kitty Lee is hungry. Hungry? What kind of excuse was that? Everyone couldn't believe it, but Kitty Lee explained seriously. Kitty Lee was locked in that lousy forest the minute she arrived at Nirvana Realm, and had nothing to eat. Kitty Lee has been hungry for a long time. As she said that, she used her hands to gesture to open it up, and repeated, "So long," several times. Kitty Lee is so hungry that she can't move. How would she have the energy to run? That group of ferocious people couldn't see how cute Kitty was, so they beat Kitty up without any explanation. Kitty Lee's pink lips pouted slightly, showing some displeasure. If it wasn't for Big Sister saving Kitty Lee, those people would definitely want to bring Kitty Lee back to cook. Everyone was dumbfounded. What a heavy taste. Nowadays, even if there were people who ate human flesh, these students wouldn't dare to eat it in the academy. It was also because of these shocking words that the students did not pay much attention to the meaning of the words, just arrived in the nirvana realm, that Kitty Lee said. Ahem. Among the students, Baiming Lulu raised her hand weakly. Kitty didn't lie. When you brought her back, apart from the superficial wounds on her body, she did have an empty stomach for a long time. Tong Ziqing's expression became even more ashen. She stared at Kitty Lee for a long time before she snorted coldly and turned around to walk towards the small path of the academy. Kitty Lee, don't take it to heart, Sister Ziqing is just jealous of you. Ni Ruopan looked at the direction where Tong Ziqing left, and couldn't help but laughed. Now the one who worships Madame Qing Luo the most is Sister Ziqing. Now that she saw you monopolizing Madame Qing Luo, she doesn't feel good. Kitty Lee smiled till her eyes curved, and once again held onto Yi Qing Luo's arm. I want to form a contract with Sister, and in future I will not let go of Sister. Yi Qing Luo was helpless, she wasn't a man, to be snatched here and there by two beauties out of jealousy. Could it be that she wanted to kill both men and women? Activate the 3 palace and 6 courtyards mode. Chapter 4:17. Alright, the academy doesn't know how many students there are in the devil class. Since Kitty Cat is here, then stay in the devil class. Yi Qing Luo rubbed Kitty Cat's head. She knew Kitty Cat's real identity so naturally she believed in Kitty Cat's innocence. Although the beast men were half human half beast, but to Old Man Tsang, the beast men basically lived alone and would not intentionally blend into the human world. Deep in their bones, they still had the purity of the beast men. It's time for training, go ahead and train. Yi Qing Luo was about to head towards the academy's small path when another student called out to her from behind. Qing Luo, I heard that. You've already agreed to the interclass competition 8 months later, is that true? That student stared at Yi Qing Luo eagerly as his hands were clasped together, extremely nervous. When the surrounding students heard this topic, the atmosphere instantly ignited. As Yi Qing Luo was seriously injured and was assassinated by the killer, these students stayed in the academy today to ensure that Yi Qing Luo was safe and sound. Because of that, they didn't know what happened in the academy today. The moment they heard the words interclass competition, the students' expressions changed. Interclass competition. This was a competition that all the classes wanted to participate in with all their might. If they were successful, they would be able to advance to a higher level class and obtain generous rewards, as well as receive the respect and admiration from everyone in the academy. More importantly, this was a proof of ability. For so many years, Devil Class's students had been hiding in the Devil Class, immersing themselves in cultivation and training to advance. Even if it was actual combat training, it would be one's own people fighting against one's own people. There was no sense of satisfaction at all. As for the Heavenly Academy's annual interclass competition, Devil Class's students wanted to take part in it so much that they almost went crazy. However, their class monitor had always rejected their requests with the excuse that the time wasn't right. Today, upon hearing that Yi Qing Luo had agreed to the interclass competition 8 months later, all of them jumped up in joy, as though they wanted to leap 3 feet into the air. I have indeed agreed to it. Yi Qing Luo lightly curled her lips. After the students got her affirmation, they couldn't suppress the excitement in their hearts as they rushed forward and surrounded Yi Qing Luo. Just as everyone wanted to lift Yi Qing Luo up and shout excitedly, they heard Yi Qing Luo spitting out 2 words. But everyone's hearts were in their throats as they stared at her. As for whether I can participate or not, firstly, I still need to seek the class monitor's approval. Secondly, I still need to see if the class monitor from Class Xian, 2, Xia, can agree to my request. Thirdly, Yi Qing Luo paused for a moment, her voice suddenly became much louder and revealed a tone like she was trying to abduct a little brother. This is the most important point, is within these 8 months, can your strength reach the level of surpassing the high profound class and win first place in one fell swoop? When the third point was mentioned, the smiles on all the students' faces gradually froze. All of them fell silent. If they were to win against the intermediate profound class, or tie with the high profound class, they would have full assurance and confidence. But to surpass the high profound class and win first place, one must know if the devil class really won the championship. The Academy would definitely allow the powerful and mysterious devil class to participate in the competition. Chapter 4:18. If devil class won, it would be equivalent to smearing the Heavenly Academy's name. Their original thoughts were merely to take part in the interclass competition, to go through actual combat with the students from other classes, to raise their own ability. To them, promotion or ranking wasn't important at all. What they wanted was to prove to the entire Academy's teachers and students that they weren't waste, and that they were strong enough to support the heavens. That was all. But Yiqing Luo's target was to win the championship. This to them was an extremely huge pressure. Yiqing Luo seemed as though she couldn't see the difficulty on their faces, as her voice remained calm. If you have the confidence, then work hard to raise your own training in these 8 months. Lulu and I will refine supplementary medicinal pills for you, and in terms of training, it will depend on your individual hard work and innate talent. The students became silent. They had no confidence. Do you know why I insist on you winning the championship? Just as the training grounds were in a state of silence, Yiqing Luo's clear and melodious voice rang leisurely. The students raised their heads as they looked at Yiqing Luo. Whereas at the other end of the training grounds, Qiao Jin and Yen Xiaoyi didn't make a sound. In their hearts, devil class's students indeed had great growth, which was comparable to the high profound class, but in terms of actual combat training and strategy, they were far from the high profound class. Locking these students in devil class to train had its pros and cons. Just like previously, they limited these students to raising their individual ability, but neglected everyone's ability to work together as a team. Now there was another huge problem placed in front of them. The only actual combat training for these students, other than their classmates, was the magical beasts in the heavenly training forest. If they were to take part in the interclass competition, to win the championship, it was probably impossible. Because you are devil class's students. Yiqing Luo's gaze was as calm as still water, without a single ripple. Her tone was also calm, but in that tone, there was something indistinctly following her voice, scuttling their hearts. Devil class is Heavenly Academy's disgrace, a waste class in everyone's eyes. If you want to clear your name, to announce to the entire continent, or even Nirvana realm, that you are not waste, the only way is. It's fine if you don't cry out, but once you cry out, it's shocking. The students' hearts seemed to have been struck by something fiercely, as they trembled slightly. Yiqing Luo's expression was indifferent and her tone was very calm. However, for some unknown reason, those 9 simple words caused their hearts to surge with excitement. The reason why I agreed to the interclass competition proposed by class monitor Xia is because I believe in you guys. Even I haven't given up on you, so why would you give up on yourselves? What is your dream? What was the target? You just want to be in the limelight during the interclass competition and suppress the other classes to prove that devil class isn't trash. What happens after that? Get beaten up by the students from the high profound class and the class of gods and return to the devil class. Is this enough to prove his name? No. It doesn't count. If they were defeated by the high profound class or class of gods, their so-called reputation would just be a joke. In the end, he suffered a crushing defeat and left the arena with his tail between his legs. Was it enough to surpass the intermediate profound class? No. They were not satisfied. How could he be satisfied? After being a waste for so many years, he finally managed to get into the Heavenly Academy but was assigned to a waste class where even the masters looked down on him. Just to surpass the intermediate profound class, how could he be satisfied? As long as you have a strong belief, believe in your own self-confidence, have your own target, and want to become a strong person who is revered by others, then give me a good answer. Chapter 4:19. Although the students didn't reply, but their eyes were burning with hope, as they were extremely fervent. You still have 8 months' time, and in these 8 months, we will use all means to train you. Yiqing Luo's vision finally fell onto Qiao Jin. As her lips curled into an extremely shallow arc, Qiao Jin understood her meaning, as he shrugged his shoulders indifferently, indicating to her to do whatever she wanted. Long Yunzhan had arranged Yiqing Luo into the class committee, and in this period of time, Yiqing Luo's ability was obvious to all. Now that Yiqing Luo had started to train everyone, they naturally didn't have any objections. Yiqing Luo then retracted her vision, sweat and hard work, then you can exchange for what you want. No matter how tough the future is, how difficult it is, as long as you persevere on, what awaits you will be a sky full of red clouds. When her words fell, Yiqing Luo paused for a moment. The entire training ground was so silent that even the students' hurried breathing could be heard clearly. Kitty Lee was infected by these words, as her cat-like eyes widened, as she stared at Yiqing Luo in adoration. Yiqing Luo seemed to have done it intentionally, as she gave them time to think. Approximately half a quarter of an hour later, Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards, as she said calmly, "Of course, it's useless to say all these too early. The key is whether class monitor Xia can accept the conditions that I raised. Train well, I'll go have a chat with class monitor." The students lowered their heads, not saying a word. It was until the moment when Yiqing Luo turned around, deafening sounds erupted from her back. "We have confidence. We want to welcome the sky full of red clouds." 10 over young men and young ladies' voices were orderly and loud. In everyone's eyes, they were already disdainful waste. No matter how miserable could it be? No matter how miserable could it be? So what if they failed? They were aiming for first place to take part in the interclass competition, they just wanted to win. Yiqing Luo didn't turn back, as she could feel the passion from those young men and young ladies behind her. She strode towards the small path, as the smile on her lips grew wider and wider. On the way to the class committee room, she met Tong Ziqing, who was sitting by the side in a daze. Yiqing Luo spoke softly, as she persuaded her to return back to training, and repeated the matter of her preparing devil class to take part in the interclass competition. Although Tong Ziqing's expression was still ugly, she still obediently returned to the training ground. When Yiqing Luo reached the class committee room, she indeed saw Long Yunzhan sitting in front of the square table, bending over the table to write something. Hearing the noise, he didn't even raise his head. "Sit. You know the purpose of my visit." Yiqing Luo sat opposite him. Long Yunzhan put away his brush and put it aside. "You decide, I have no objections." Ever since the conversation with Yiqing Luo yesterday, Long Yunzhan was no longer disturbed by the entanglement in his heart, as he resumed his usual calm and serene self. Yiqing Luo shrugged her shoulders. "Since that's the case, then I won't be unreasonable and evasive. Tomorrow is a holiday, and for the 3 days of holiday, I've decided to set up a mercenary group and let everyone take on missions." This method reminded her of the silver plate mercenary group she met in the magical beast forest. If these students were to form a mercenary group and take on missions from the mercenary union, this kind of training in the wild would be much more useful than training in the training grounds. Any kind of training was more effective than actual combat training. Long Yunzhan was startled, his brows slightly furrowed. "Mercenary group?" Yiqing Luo nodded. Long Yunzhan had never thought of bringing these students out of the academy for training. Perhaps it was because he had no memory of this world, and the only sense of security he had was Heavenly Academy. Perhaps he was worried that Devil Class's students' ability would be exposed too early. Chapter 4:20. Long Yunjian pondered for a moment and slowly nodded. If it's you, there shouldn't be a problem. The underlying meaning was that he had agreed to Yi Qing Luo's suggestion. However, you will still be the leader. The vice leader and the other positions will be handed over to Xiao Yi and the others. Towards her, the backbone of the students was more inclined towards Long Yunjian. After all, Long Yunjian was the one who had truly saved their lives. Long Yunjian had no objections. After discussing with Long Yunjian, Yi Qing Luo headed over to the ectoplasm treasure land. According to what the ghost doctor said, she just had to take another pill tonight and her body would be completely recovered. There were only 3 days of holidays, so the devil class had to make the best use of their time and not waste any cultivation time. She had to make a full recovery before tomorrow. After entering the ectoplasm treasured land, Yi Qing Luo extracted her consciousness into the azure dew bracelet. Old man Tsang checked Yi Qing Luo's pulse and couldn't help but nod his head as he sighed silently. Ghost doctor. She's indeed ghost doctor. Hearing this tone, Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes. Old man Tsang, you know senior ghost doctor. Old man Tsang's hand on Yi Qing Luo's wrist paused for a moment before he withdrew his hand. I don't know. You don't know him. Did he really think that she had just met him? Previously, when he'd first met the ghost doctor in the medicine refining room, old man Tsang had clearly acted as if he didn't recognize her. But ever since he heard the ghost doctor's name, his entire person seemed to have changed. In addition to this sentence, it would be strange if they didn't know him. Old man Tsang saw Yi Qing Luo staring at him with a pair of suspicious eyes. He immediately turned his head away in annoyance and lightly landed on the stone bed that was constructed from spiritual qi and laid down. Little girl, take good care of your body and cultivate. Don't ask too many questions. Since old man Tsang wasn't willing to answer, Yi Qing Luo naturally wouldn't force him to ask. She sat cross-legged, closed her eyes, and began to mobilize the profound energy in her profound jade heart. On one hand, she cultivated, and on the other hand, she used spiritual energy to nourish her internal injuries. What she didn't know was that the moment she closed her eyes, old man Tsang, who originally had his back facing her, turned around. Spiritual qi rose in spirals, and the face under the white beard was dyed with a faint trace of melancholy. Ghost doctor, who would have thought that the old man from the herbal sect was actually the ghost doctor? Could it be that it was really the will of the heavens? The next day, after Yi Qing Luo opened her eyes, she stretched her limbs and felt relaxed. There seemed to be a flow of air flowing through her body. She felt light as a feather and didn't feel uncomfortable at all. She tried to circulate the profound qi in her body, but there was no obstruction. Her internal injuries, as well as the scars on her arm which were caused by Yi Qing Qian's whip, had completely recovered. After coming out from the spiritual qi treasure land, the students of the devil class had already packed their belongings and were saying their goodbyes to one another, preparing to go home. The academy was on a holiday, so the last time to seal the academy gates was at noon. Because of this, the students had to pack their things early in the morning and strive to leave the academy before noon. Otherwise, they would be forcefully driven out of the academy by the guards. If one was unlucky and stayed longer than noon, it would be recorded as a minor demerit. By the time Yi Qing Luo came out, most of the students had already said their goodbyes. On seeing Yi Qing Luo walking over, Qiao Jin caressed his throat as he gave a light cough. The originally bustling training grounds suddenly became incomparably quiet. All the students reflexively stood in line, their backs straight as they looked at Qiao Jin. This was a habit which they had developed over the years. Yi Qing Luo slowly walked to Qiao Jin's side, as her charming eyes swept past each and every one of those childish faces. Chapter 421. Devil class students don't have any holidays. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled slightly as she placed her hands behind her back. Today is your free time, but tomorrow before 5 in the morning, you must report to the Mercenary Association's entrance. Mercenary Association. The students' eyes widened as they more or less guessed Yi-Ching Luo's plan. Your abilities aren't bad, but you don't have any bit of actual combat experience. Yi-Ching Luo ignored the shock in their eyes. Setting up a mercenary group and accepting missions for you to complete is the best way to increase your actual combat experience. Qiao Jin continued, as for the accommodation for these 3 days, I've already arranged it. After you leave the academy, you can move to the mansion in the west of the city. The students immediately cried out. Some were cheering while some were wailing. In the process of completing the mission, there is a possibility that you will meet other mercenary groups and compete with you for the mission items. Yi-Ching Luo's clear and melodious voice rose slightly. Her voice was gentle, but her aura suppressed the voices of the students. The outside world is not as clean as the academy. By then, if there are mercenary groups snatching items, it will be up to you to decide how you want to do it. The students tensed up. In this way, setting up a mercenary group was not only to complete missions but also to fight with other mercenary groups. Thinking about it, it made them a little excited. Our aim is not to create trouble, but we are absolutely not afraid of trouble. If you are the one who creates trouble, I will not stop Vice Class Monitor from punishing you. But if anyone dares to offend us, I will be the first to go up. The students clenched their fists as they replied valiantly, yes. It was a holiday and the academy was obviously livelier than usual. The students who came and went had excited smiles on their faces. The academy's entrance was filled with people. Those elders from the families were all here to welcome their families, hope and glory. Devil classes students were disguised as ordinary students as they left the academy one by one. Yi-Ching Luo guessed that during this holiday, the Yi family would not be peaceful. She rejected the few who wanted to leave the academy with her and entrusted Kitty Li to Ni Ruo Pan. She had to admit that Yi-Ching Luo's intuition was very accurate. Before she reached the courtyard's entrance, she saw Yi-Ching Qian, who was being crowded by the crowd, smiling shyly, but her eyes were filled with unconcealable delight. A few female students gathered around her, talking about something. Yi-Ching Qian smiled coquettishly, covering half of her face shyly from time to time. Seeing Yi-Ching Luo, Yi-Ching Qian immediately welcomed her with a smile. "Seventh sister, let's go back together." Classmate Qing Qian, why did you drag her home with you? Although they are both daughters of the Three Springs sect, one is from the High Profound class, the other is from the Devil class. A female student beside her rolled her eyes in disgust. Exactly. If people were to see us, they would think that we are as useless as the Devil class. I don't even want to admit that such a person is a student of our academy. It's so embarrassing. Every single word around her were praising Yi-Ching Qian and belittling Yi-Ching Luo. Yi-Ching Qian's pair of beautiful eyes that were pretending to be gentle were filled with a complacent smile. But Yi-Ching Qian still rebuked the few people who were talking. Stop talking, seventh sister is after all my sister. Student Qing Qian, since His Highness the Crown Prince personally came to the academy to pick you up, does that mean your wedding date is near? Yi-Ching Qian's delicate face turned even redder as she stomped her feet. What nonsense are you talking about? Like a little girl, she shyly broke away from the hands of the female students and jogged towards Ling Fenghua. The female students behind her knew that she was in a good mood, so they became bolder and teased her. What nonsense are you talking about? Look at how excited you are to see your sweetheart. Your Highness. Yi-Ching Qian trotted forward, a pair of beautiful eyes rippling like spring water. She was panting when her feet seemed to have bumped into something as she suddenly staggered and cried out in surprise. Ling Fenghua stretched out his hand and coincidentally caught Yi-Ching Qian in his arms. Slow down, you're in such a hurry. If others saw you, they would only think that you're the eldest miss of the Yi family who doesn't know etiquette. Although he said so, but the pampering in his tone was obvious. Chapter 423. Ling Fenghua's identity was outstanding. and he had put on such a big show. At the crowded entrance of the academy, the gazes of countless people were basically gathered on Ling Fenghua. There were also many family elders who wanted to greet Ling Fenghua after seeing him, but they were stopped by the imperial guards. At this moment, on seeing Yi Qingjian and Ling Fenghua's lovey-dovey look, everyone could see it clearly. It was only the academy's holiday, yet Ling Fenghua had set up such a grand display, and even personally welcomed them. Everyone was guessing that the Three Springs sect and the royal family, were they preparing for marriage? Everyone then recalled what the female student had said earlier, and they all nodded in agreement. This was indeed the déjà vu of the wedding day approaching. Yi Qingqian could feel the envious gazes from the surrounding, feeling that she was like the moon surrounded by stars. Everyone was surrounding her, praising her, envying her. She enjoyed this feeling too much. The depths of Yi Qingqian's eyes were filled with a complacent expression. However, the expression on her face was still as gentle as a spring breeze. With a voice as gentle as water, she said softly, "Your Highness is busy with official business. In fact, there is no need for you to personally," before he could finish his words. Her soft and delicate body that was stuck close to Ling Fenghua was pushed away by Ling Fenghua. The man's handsome face lowered his eyes to look at her. Yi Qingqian looked away shyly. Her voice was soft and charming. "Your Highness, you're so annoying. Where is Qing Luo?" These two voices sounded at the same time. Before Yi Qingqian's tempting ending tone could hook up, she heard Ling Fenghua's question. The smile on his face froze. Seeing Yi Qingqian not replying for a long time, Ling Fenghua narrowed his eyes and repeated once again, "Qian, where's Qing Luo?" "Your Highness, why are you looking for seventh sister?" Yi Qingqian quickly regained her senses and suppressed the displeasure in her heart, maintaining the gentle smile on her face. Ling Fenghua curled his thin lips, but his eyes were fixed on a certain spot in the crowd. Suddenly, he raised his voice and raised his voice. "She is this prince's future crown princess. This prince naturally came to take her home." This time round, the smile on Yi Qingqian's face couldn't be maintained. Her face turned extremely pale in an instant. Her soft body trembled uncontrollably. Ling Fenghua's words were like a ruthless slap on her face. The beating was loud and clear. Ling Fenghua's voice was extremely loud. Like a clap of thunder, it exploded in everyone's ears. The information contained in these words was really huge. Could it be that Ling Fenghua's extravagance today was not to pick up Yi Qingqian, but to pick up the Yi family's seventh young miss who had been a waste for more than 10 years? Only then did everyone remember that Ling Fenghua and the Yi clan's trash seventh young miss were engaged by the monarch himself. Then, Yi Qingqian actually ran over like a butterfly the minute she saw Ling Fenghua, and even hooked onto his arm. What was she trying to do? Earlier Yi Qingqian's bunch of lackeys said that the crown prince was a perfect man and the wedding date was nearing. What were they up to? Everyone's gazes towards Yi Qingqian had changed from the original envy to disdain and ridicule. The number one beauty of Three Springs City was quite pretty, and her cultivation talent was strong too. However, his character was so low. Chapter 424. Eldest Miss Yi has indeed hooked up with the crown prince. The last time eldest Miss Yi went to the public square to find trouble with student Yi Qingluo, student Yi Qingluo said that there was something going on between them. At that time I didn't think so, but now I've seen it with my own eyes. This atmosphere, this stance, they must have hooked up for more than 3 years. Shoo, lower your voice. If the crown prince hears this, we'll be the unlucky ones. They can even do such a thing. Are they afraid that we'll say anything? Look at them, they're already stuck together. The surrounding students muttered softly, as they rushed towards Ling Fenghua's direction, pointing and gossiping. After Ling Fenghua raised his voice and said that sentence, he regretted it. But the words had already been said, and there were so many people who heard it, it was impossible to take it back. At this moment, the surrounding people's gazes were like needles, staring at him, as they described the matter between him and Yi Qingqian, in an extremely filthy manner. Although Ling Fenghua and Yi Qingqian had indeed hooked up for many years. However, this was their private matter. Now that it was brought out in front of so many people, he, the crown prince of a country, was completely disgraced. Especially now that the royal family was in turmoil, this stain of his could possibly affect his position as the crown prince. Thinking of this, Ling Fenghua couldn't wait to give himself a big slap. He had always been cautious in his words and actions, and was very clear that any words and actions could possibly be used against him by the enemy. But he had not expected, today, in front of so many people, he had committed such a lowly mistake. The Academy's entrance was not only filled with people from the West Continent, nor were they only from influential families. From all over the world, there were people with all kinds of statuses in Nirvana realm. Today's topic would definitely spread at an extremely fast speed in the entire Nirvana realm. Ling Fenghua's heart was crying out in frustration, as his gloomy face suddenly pushed Yi Qingqian away. His vision went past Yi Qingqian, looking towards somewhere in the crowd. However, he discovered that the delicate figure that he had been longing for had disappeared without a trace. He intentionally said that he was here to fetch Yi Qingluo, intentionally said it to Yi Qingluo. They weren't too far apart, so no matter how noisy the surroundings were, Yi Qingluo would definitely have heard what he said. But not only did Yi Qingluo not take the initiative to look for him, she was nowhere to be seen. The minute he thought that because of her, the surrounding people had suspected the relationship between him and Yi Qingqian, Ling Fenghua's heart was filled with rage. After Yi Qingluo walked out of the courtyard, she saw Yi Fengyu, who had been standing obediently at the entrance, waiting for her. After nearly 20 days, Yi Fengyu had grown a lot taller, and his body had also become a lot sturdier. Yi Qingluo's eyes curved, "Little you." She quickly walked forward and grabbed Yi Fengyu's wrist. His wrist was no longer as thin and weak as before. It already had the feel of solid muscle. It had only been 20 days, yet Yi Fengyu had changed so much. It seemed like old man Yu did not forget to train Yi Fengyu when he was the teacher of the devil class. Sister. When Yi Fengyu saw Yi Qingluo, a smile appeared on his delicate face. He was just about to stretch out his hand to take his sister's luggage, but discovered that Yi Qingluo's hands were empty. Yi Qingluo rubbed his head. "The dormitory has been destroyed, the things inside can't be kept, and there's nothing valuable inside." Chapter 425. Put your mind on training, don't keep paying attention to my sister. Yi Qingluo's hand, which was rubbing his head, suddenly increased in strength as she gave him a hard slap. Yi Fengyu hugged his head in pain. "I'm just worried about you." "Is your sister's hand someone to worry about?" The siblings chatted on, totally not paying attention to the situation over at Ling Fenghua's side, so naturally they didn't hear the words that he deliberately raised his volume to tell her. Just as she was preparing to return to Three Springs sect, a few students suddenly appeared in front. "Student Yi, Crown Prince is here to pick you up personally. What are you still doing here? His Highness the Crown Prince treats you so well. Earlier your eldest sister thought that Crown Prince was here specially to pick her up, so she pretended to be shy. Who knew? Crown Prince said he was here to pick you up. Student Yi, hurry over, don't let Crown Prince wait for too long. I can't wait to see Yi Qingqian's sullen face. She really thinks of herself as a goddess." Looking down on other students, but still being outdone by her own sister. Still trying to snatch her own sister's fiancé, only her face is big enough to do such a thing. These female students had obviously been bullied by Yi Qingqian daily. This was a rare chance for Yi Qingqian to lose her face in public, so they naturally wouldn't let it go. Hence, one by one, they started to search for Yi Qingluo. Once they found her, they crowded around her and pushed her into the crowd. Yi Qing Luo was still in a daze when she heard a joyful voice, Qing Luo. She saw Ling Fenghua walking over with an earnest face. His face was filled with his usual refined and warm smile. He walked to Yi Qing Luo's side and stretched out his hand to grab her wrist. His eyes were filled with worry. "I heard that you were attacked. Are you injured?" "After I heard this news, I have been so worried that I couldn't eat or sleep." His voice was gentle and filled with affection. Like a young lad who had his first awakening of love, with a trace of bashfulness and a trace of cautiousness. "I know today is the school's holiday, so I immediately came to pick you up. Now that I see that you are fine, I can rest assured." If it wasn't for the fact that she knew Ling Fenghua's true colors, Yi Qing Luo would have been deceived by his superb acting skills. Whereas for Yi Qing Jian, who was standing by the side, her entire face was sunken as she stood stiffly by the side with an awkward and embarrassed expression. She pretended to be sentimental as she went up to Ling Fenghua, intentionally flaunted her love, but when Ling Fenghua questioned Yi Qing Luo, and even said that he was here to fetch Yi Qing Luo, she was given a tight slap on her face. But now, Ling Fenghua had ignored her, and treated Yi Qing Luo with eagerness and gentleness. That was like sprinkling a handful of salt on her wound. Ling Fenghua's eyes were obviously drooling over Yi Qing Luo. Furthermore, after Yi Qing Luo had stirred things up, Ling Fenghua had never mentioned the topic of marrying her again. Yi Qing Qian was trembling with rage. She had given everything to Ling Fenghua. She had given her entire life to Ling Fenghua, but in the end, this was the result. She would never accept this. In his heart, an inexplicable flame of jealousy burned incessantly. Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly, as she faintly glanced past Yi Qing Jian, who was shooting a hateful gaze at her, as her lips curled into an arc of ridicule. "I've troubled your highness." Chapter 426. Banquet. Ling Fenghua had never set up any banquet for her. Yi Qing Qian's body trembled even more violently. The hands hidden in her sleeves clenched tightly into fists. She had to suppress the rage in her heart and maintain her image in front of everyone. Yi Qing Qian was angry, but Yi Qing Luo smiled charmingly, that pair of long and narrow eyes that could charm all living beings, her eyebrows curved, seducing one's soul. For a moment, Ling Fenghua almost went into a daze. He secretly cursed himself for being blind in the past, to give up such a stunning beauty and insist on a secret meeting with Yi Qing Qian. Today, he had almost ruined his reputation. In order to wash away the rumors between him and Yi Qing Qian, he wanted to release all his love for Yi Qing Luo. "Qing Luo, it must be tiring to stand and talk, let me help you into the car." Ling Fenghua held Yi Qing Luo's arm, looking like a 24 filial fiancé. "You let go of my sister." Yi Fengyu's face was ashen. He threw the luggage on the ground and rushed forward, pulling Yi Qing Luo behind him. Towards Ling Fenghua, he had no good impression at all. Outsiders might not know, but as a member of the Yi family, he was very clear about it. Ling Fenghua and Yi Qing Luo were obviously engaged, but he still wanted to mix around with Yi Qing Qian. If it was other women, it was normal for a man to have 3 wives and 4 concubines, especially as the crown prince. There was no lack of women around him. But that woman was Yi Qing Qian. Without the woman's soft arm in his hand, and that unique fragrance, Ling Fenghua inexplicably felt an emptiness in his heart. He subconsciously stretched out his hand, trying to grab Yi Qing Luo's hand. However, Yi Fengyu's back was as straight as a ramrod, not giving him any chance to touch his sister. That protective look made Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but laugh out loud. It seemed that the training in the academy not only had his body changed, even his character had changed. If it was in the past, Yi Fengyu would never dare to use such an attitude to face Ling Fenghua. "Xiao Yu, you go back first." Yi Qing Luo put her hand on Yi Fengyu's shoulder and gently moved his body in front of her. "Since the crown prince has invited me, how can I not go? Sister, Yi Qing Luo raised her head and squinted at Yi Fengyu. Yi Fengyu stopped speaking, pursed his lips, and moved away unwillingly. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into a smile as she gently patted his shoulder. At the same time, Yi Qing Luo suppressed her voice to a volume that only the both of them could hear. Find some time in the afternoon to go to the Western Mansion and look for a Mr. called Xiao Jin. Say he's my younger brother and just listen to his arrangements. With that, she had already walked towards Ling Fenghua's direction. When Ling Fenghua heard that Yi Qing Luo had actually agreed to the matter of the banquet, his face revealed an ecstatic expression as he immediately stretched out his hand to support Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo acted as though she didn't see him as she flipped over and leapt onto that carriage. Ling Fenghua was startled, but he was not angry. He got on the carriage with a smile. Yi Qing Qian gritted her teeth as she clenched her fists tightly, as a vicious look surfaced on her face. That pair of eyes under the long hair stared fiercely at Yi Qing Luo as though it was laced with poison. Eldest young Miss Yi seems to be very dissatisfied with this highness. Ling Fenghua narrowed his eyes. How could he not feel Yi Qing Qian's hatred? In order to make the surrounding people believe that there was no relationship between him and Yi Qing Qian. At this moment, the expression on Ling Fenghua's face was as cold as ice. His eyes revealed a sliver of indistinct warning. Chapter 427. Only then did Ling Fenghua's expression become slightly better. He gave a cold harumph and flicked his sleeves. I'll have to trouble eldest Miss Yi to send 8th young Master Yi back to his residence, and also to inform Patriarch Yi and old ancestor that Qing Luo has been brought to the Crown Prince Palace by me. Just a second ago, it was still gentle and sweet. She thought that she would become the object of envy in the eyes of all the students today. But in the next second, reality completely crushed her. She was ordered around by Ling Fenghua in front of everyone. At this moment, although she was filled with anger, she still smiled delicately and said, "Yes, Qian understands." Ling Fenghua withdrew his gaze and entered the carriage. The group of people left in a mighty manner. The scene was extremely grand. Yi Qing Qian's mouth was filled with dust from the clatter of the horse's hooves. She tried her best to restrain her emotions. The long hair on the side of her cheek scattered, concealing her venomous resentment and gloom. The surrounding students and parents were filled with envy towards Yi Qing Luo and praising Ling Fenghua. All of them were certain that Ling Fenghua's action was to let Yi Qing Luo officially marry into the family. Classmate Yi is so lucky to have such a good fiancé. If it were me, I would definitely faint from happiness. That's right, that's right. His Highness the Crown Prince is so busy every day, but he's still so concerned about student Yi. He especially found out about the holiday and personally came to pick student Yi up. It's so heartwarming. Of course, although student Yi is placed in the devil class, but her strength is obvious to all. She was beautiful and powerful, so of course the Crown Prince would like her. Unlike some people who shamelessly seduce their future brother-in-law and even think of ways to smear their own sister's name. That's right. If I were the Crown Prince, I would also choose student Yi. The surrounding discussions were in full swing, and although they had intentionally suppressed their voices, but Yi Qing Qian could still hear it clearly. She was so angry that her body trembled. Originally, the one who should be envied was her. This glory belonged to her. It was all Yi Qing Luo's fault. It was Yi Qing Luo, that slut. He took away everything that belonged to her. Just by taking the title of the first wife's daughter, she could become the young lord of the Three Springs sect and be engaged to Ling Fenghua. Why? These were supposed to be hers. A sharp glint flashed past Yi Qing Qian's eyes as she speedily chased after the carriage without giving him a glance. Yi Fengyu thought that she was embarrassed and wanted to leave first. He didn't think too much about it and picked up his luggage to go home. Crown Prince Palace. The resplendent and magnificent palace was imposing and magnificent. At this moment, the huge garden was filled with countless exquisite delicacies. Ling Fenghua had indeed chosen a good place. Sitting here for a meal, if the other party was someone else, Yiqing Luo would definitely be able to have a full meal. Ling Fenghua had been staring at Yiqing Luo's face all this while. Seeing that she was surveying the surroundings without any signs of disgust, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He and Yiqing Luo were sitting face to face, separated by a long table in the middle. Royal Father had always said that the flowers in this highness's garden are extremely splendid and colorful. But when Qing Luo sits here, she is more beautiful than the flowers, and the surrounding flowers lose their color. Ling Fenghua was holding a wine glass, his black eyes were infatuated, and he didn't even try to hide his love for her. When Yiqing Luo heard that, she scoffed lightly as her long and narrow eyes rippled with a trace of cold smile. "Oh? Your Highness is questioning the monarch's foresight?" "No, it's not that." Ling Fenghua choked as his expression turned embarrassed. His main point was obviously to praise Yiqing Luo for being more beautiful than the flowers. Why did Yiqing Luo place the main point on the first half of the sentence? Chapter 428. Ling Fenghua smiled calmly, and revealed a trace of flattery. "Qing Luo is exceptionally intelligent, this highness knows that my thoughts can't be hidden from you." Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes and scoffed. Don't say it as if she knew him very well. She didn't have the leisure to guess Ling Fenghua's thoughts. It was just that Ling Fenghua's performance was too obvious. Ling Fenghua raised his wine glass towards Yiqing Luo. "Since Qing Luo has already come straight to the point, then I shall not beat around the bush." He downed the wine in his cup in one gulp. His actions were noble and elegant like a prince of a country. Only, after he placed it on the wine cup, his gaze towards Yiqing Luo became earnest again. That day in the magic beast forest, Qing Luo seemed to be able to tame mirage beasts and even ride on the mirage beast's back. Is there any special method? As expected, long ago when Ling Fenghua raised the invitation, Yiqing Luo had already guessed his motive. She had more or less heard about the recent turmoil in the royal family. Although Ling Fenghua had always been the crown prince since he was born, his foundation was really not solid. In the royal family, as long as there was evidence to prove that he wasn't the best candidate, then he would be deposed. Ling Fenghua was originally outstanding because of his cultivation talent. But now, no matter how hard he tried, he was unable to touch the barrier to break through. Especially recently, because of Yiqing Luo's matter, it caused his reputation to not be good. Ling Fenghua was naturally very anxious. The only way was to break through to the earth-profound realm as soon as possible and become the first prince to step into the earth-profound realm. His position as the crown prince would be secure. The last time Ling Fenghua appeared in the magic beast forest, it was to find the magic crystal gems. He wanted to break through. In the end, Yiqing Luo appeared and messed up all the plans. If Ling Fenghua wanted to advance, he would definitely come to find her. "Qing Luo, if you are able to teach this highness the ability to tame mirage beasts, this highness promises you that the future empress of the West Continent will definitely be you." Ling Fenghua saw that she didn't reply for a long time, and his heart became anxious, and he immediately opened up a new condition. If he could secure the position of crown prince, Yiqing Luo would also be able to secure the position of crown prince's imperial concubine. In future, when he succeeded the throne, he would immediately confer Yiqing Luo as his empress. He was only below one person and above tens of thousands. He believed that no woman in the world could escape from such a promise. However, after Ling Fenghua said these words, Yiqing Luo still held on to a smile which didn't look like a smile, and didn't make a sound. The more she did not speak, the more Ling Fenghua's heart was beating like a drum. Now that he had a request for Yiqing Luo's help, he didn't dare to display his crown prince's attitude. Ling Fenghua was very clear that Yi Qing Luo was not an obedient lady. If the hard way didn't work, then he would use the soft way. Adding on to the sufficient benefits, an intelligent lady like Yi Qing Luo would definitely make the best choice. Ling Fenghua poured another cup of wine. Qing Luo, consider it carefully, this highness really likes you, in the future you will also be this highness' wife, if you help this highness now, you are also helping yourself. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes slightly as an enchanting ray of light flashed past. She put her index finger on her lips and covered her mouth as she chuckled. If eldest sister heard what your highness said to me, how sad would she be? I have nothing to do with eldest Miss Yi. Ling Fenghua immediately shook his head, as he spoke righteously, since this highness is your fiancée, then eldest Miss Yi is also this highness' future sister, no matter how lustful this highness is, I will absolutely not do such a rude thing. Chapter 430. Qing Luo, you can't leave. Ling Fenghua immediately stood up and wanted to chase after her. But before he could straighten his body and raise his hand, his entire body went limp as though he had no energy at all. A surge of raging fire was burning within his body. He fell onto the long table and half of his body had already covered the exquisite delicacies on the long table. His body was stained with quite a bit of soup, but he didn't even have the energy to move. His entire body was burning with that burning feeling. You must be wondering what on earth is going on. Yi Qing Luo stopped in her tracks as she looked down at Ling Fenghua, who was sprawled on the table. Her smile was still as bright as a flower. The coldness amidst the laughter was like frost. Ling Fenghua's face was filled with astonishment as his trembling finger pointed at Yi Qing Luo. You didn't. Curious why I had obviously drunk this cup of wine, but the one who was drugged is you. Yi Qing Luo directly repeated Ling Fenghua's question. Ling Fenghua blinked his eyes. His entire face was flushed red from the aphrodisiac and his entire body was boiling hot as sweat dripped down. Yi Qing Luo laughed coldly in her heart. Did he really treat her as an idiot? A lone man and woman, set up in the garden, and there wasn't a single attendant or maid to serve them. How could she not see through Ling Fenghua's motive? What's done cannot be undone. That would depend on whether he had the ability to cook the rice or not. Yi Qing Luo laughed coldly as her fingertips hooked onto that wine cup on the table and shook out a handful of medicinal powder. Following that, she picked up the wine cup which Ling Fenghua had drunk several times earlier and flicked her fingers around the rim of the cup. Around the rim of the cup, a circle of jet black immediately appeared. Ling Fenghua's face flushed red as his eyes widened in disbelief. Yi Qing Luo had obviously not touched his wine cup and he had been staring at her. How did she do it? This lady emphasizes on reciprocity and I will return you double the amount. Don't worry, your antidote will be here soon. Yi Qing Luo gave a low laugh as she bent down slightly as though she was looking at an ant that was about to die. Perhaps it was because his entire body was drugged, Ling Fenghua could clearly sense that the lady's fragrance had entered his nose. The burning sensation in his body felt like it was about to explode. Not knowing where the energy came from, he suddenly stood up and pounced towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. This pounce caused his abdomen to receive a vicious kick from Yi Qing Luo. Ling Fenghua was caught off guard by this kick, and he was sent flying. Coincidentally, he bumped into the rockery in the corner. Ling Fenghua landed heavily on the ground. He felt a sharp pain in his chest and coughed out blood. However, this pain did not quell the raging fire in his body. A woman in green and white walked out from behind the rockery. She stared coldly at the direction where Yi Qing Luo left, her facial features were sinister and terrifying. What trick was Yi Qing Luo playing? He actually gave Ling Fenghua to her just like that. Yi Qingqian's brows creased tightly, unable to understand Yi Qingluo's actions. She lowered her head and stared at Ling Fenghua, who was lying by her feet, his face flushed red as his hands kept on tearing off his clothes. Thinking of how he had fawned over Yi Qingluo earlier, a glint of hatred surfaced in her eyes. He should have known about Ling Fenghua's fickleness. However, in this scene, her heart was moved by Ling Fenghua. She had obviously gotten close to Ling Fenghua in order to walk up to a higher position, not wanting to live under someone else. But this heart had uncontrollably fallen in love with Ling Fenghua. Looking at Ling Fenghua's wriggling body, his face filled with pain, she couldn't bear it. She slowly squatted down and took out a handkerchief from her bosom, helping Ling Fenghua to wipe his sweat. "Bear with it for a while, I'll get someone to carry you to the bedroom." Only when her hand had just touched Ling Fenghua, her wrist instantly tightened and she had been forcefully pressed onto the ground by Ling Fenghua. Chapter 431. Just as she walked out of the Crown Prince Palace, Yi Qingluo saw Yi Fengyu, who was twitching uneasily not too far away. Her heart warmed, and a warm smile appeared on her face as she walked towards him. "Sister." The moment Yi Fengyu saw Yi Qingluo, his eyes lit up and immediately trotted forward to grab her hand. "Are you all right? Are you okay?" His eyes were filled with worry as he anxiously pulled Yi Qingluo to check if she was injured. Yi Qingluo's eyes were filled with smiles. "You don't trust me that much." Listening to her relaxed tone, Yi Fengyu's heart that was hanging in his throat finally calmed down. His Highness the Crown Prince was definitely up to no good by asking his sister for a gathering. Although Big Sister is powerful, there are so many experts in the Crown Prince Palace. Big Sister will be at a disadvantage if she is alone. No matter how he thought about it, Yi Fengyu was still worried, so he simply followed them. If Yi Qingluo was a little later, he would definitely barge into the Crown Prince Palace. "Xiao Yu, I have a mission for you." A crafty smile surfaced on Yi Qingluo's charming eyes as she leaned close to Yi Fengyu's ear. "Go to Second Prince's residence and tell him to bring along some pedantic old ministers who have a say in the palace to the Crown Prince's garden. I've prepared a big gift for him." When Yi Qingluo returned to Three Springs Sect, Second Madam and a bunch of maids were standing at the entrance. Seeing Yi Qingluo, Second Madam's well-manicured brows knitted tightly. "Where's Qian, Today was the Academy's holiday, and in order to reflect the independence of the Three Springs Sect's children, Old Madam had forbidden her to fetch Yi Qingqian from the Academy. Second Madam had prepared pastries early in the morning and led a group of maids to wait for Yi Qingqian at the door. They had already waited for 4 hours and there was no sign of Yi Qingqian. He had not expected Yi Qingluo, this slut, to come back first. "You're looking for eldest sister?" Yi Qingluo raised her brows as her lips curled into a strange smile. "Eldest sister has been picked up by the Crown Prince." On hearing that it was Ling Fenghua who had fetched Yi Qingqian, Second Madam's worried heart was finally relieved. But when he saw the smile on Yi Qingluo's face, he suddenly felt a little strange. But he couldn't tell what was strange about it. The one who brought Yi Qingqian away was Ling Fenghua. Perhaps this little slut saw that her own fiancé had brought away another lady and was suppressing her anger. With this thought, the Second Madam did not think too much about it. She called for a group of maids and returned to the mansion, swaying her hips. Yi Qingluo sneered as her eyes were filled with ridicule. Now, he should be happy. Later, there would be plenty of places to cry. Yi Qingluo narrowed her eyes and entered the Three Springs Sect. She didn't follow the rules and report to Old Grand Madam first, but went straight back to her own courtyard. Not long after, Yi Fengyu returned. The things which Yi Qingluo had instructed, he had already completed them. When I first said this, the second prince didn't believe me. But when I said Big Sister's name, he immediately believed me. Yi Fengyu frowned in confusion. Could it be that Big Sister knows the second prince? I don't know him. Yiqing Luo raised her arm and rubbed Yi Fengyu's head. He trusts me, which proves that he is a smart man. Compared to Ling Fenghua, he is more suitable to be the crown prince. Hearing this, Yi Fengyu's expression immediately changed. Be the crown prince? Could it be that big sister wants to let the second prince replace the crown prince? He totally didn't expect that he was just running an errand to pass a message, and it could affect the change of the crown prince's position. Don't worry about other things, just watch the show. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes, reflecting a meaningful cold arc. Chapter 432. The news of the siblings' return to the mansion reached the elder ancestor's ears immediately. However, the two siblings stayed in the courtyard and had no intention of coming to see her. Second Madame Yuqi whispered in her ear. Yiqing Luo totally didn't put old Madame in her heart and even instigated the usually obedient Yi Fengyu to not put old Madame in his eyes. Old Grand Madame was most concerned about the younger generation's respect towards her, so she immediately called for the old maid to bring Yiqing Luo and her brother over. Yiqing Luo led Yi Fengyu to the main hall and saw old Grand Madame sitting on the soft chair, knocking on the wooden fish. Madame Yuqi stood respectfully at the side, looking submissive. It seemed that Madame Yuqi's authority as the mistress of the household had not returned to her. Old 7 and Old 8 are back. Old Ancestor squinted his eyes like a soft snake, giving off a cold glow. Yi Fengyu reflexively straightened his back and bowed slightly towards the elder ancestor. Yes, elder ancestor. You has returned. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she stood by the side, not saying a single word. Number 7, I heard that your eldest sister had been taken away by the crown prince. Old Grand Madame didn't probe deeply into Yiqing Luo's attitude, but instead found a topic to talk about. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows. I thought I had already made it very clear to second aunt. Madame Yuqi's face paled slightly as she hid behind elder ancestor. She's just a young lady. She's not even married yet and she's already so close to His Highness the Crown Prince. If other people hear about this, they'll only laugh at Three Springs sect for not knowing how to educate young ladies. Grand Elder's face darkened slightly as he turned to glare at Madame Yuqi. Madame Yuqi's body trembled and she lowered her head, looking like she was humbly being scolded. Yiqing Luo sneered in her heart when she heard that. This old ancestor was indeed a smart person. He's pretty good at playing dumb. Knowing that currently, Ling Fenghua was Yiqing Luo's fiancée on the surface. However, the old ancestor did not mention a single word about it. Come to think of it, old Grand Madame was still hoping that Yiqing Qian would be able to tie Ling Fenghua up so that she could secure the position of Crown Prince's imperial concubine. Look how kind and filial she is. Knowing the old ancestor's plan, he purposely added fuel to the fire. It wouldn't be long before Yiqing Qian would be able to marry Ling Fenghua as she wished, fulfilling the Yi family's long-cherished dream. Old 7th you too, why didn't you persuade your eldest sister a little more? Old Grand Madame brought the topic back to Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched with a smile that didn't look like a smile. When eldest sister and crown prince are deeply in love, how can I stop them if I go and persuade them? The old ancestor was embarrassed and his face turned red as he choked. She had totally not expected Yiqing Luo to put it so bluntly in front of her. But on seeing Yiqing Luo's calm expression towards the matter of Ling Fenghua and Yiqing Qian being together, her heart faintly heaved a sigh of relief. She had been feeling uneasy ever since her 7th brother left under the protection of His Majesty, the Overlord. She had lived for most of her life. How could she not understand that Dizun was trying to build support for her 7th brother? He had used his actions to show that he, the Overlord, would stand by old 7th's side and be his backer. Who was Dizun? He was a legendary figure that was famous throughout the entire Nirvana realm. He had the #1 powerhouse, the imperial palace as his backing, and he himself was so powerful that there was no opponent in the world who dared to go against him. Today, Di Zun wanted to protect Yi Qing Luo. When old Grand Madam faced Yi Qing Luo, she naturally could not throw her face away like in the past. Chapter 433. A lady who had been touched by the crown prince, no matter where she went, no one dared to accept her. Moreover, based on Yi Qing Luo's character, if she became the crown prince's concubine, she would absolutely not allow Yi Qing Qian to become Leng Fenghua's concubine, to put on a show of two sisters serving one husband. Old Madam was extremely curious, what was the relationship between Yi Qing Luo and the overlord? From the looks of it, it really didn't seem like a simple master-disciple relationship. If she was able to get close to the overlord, then Three Springs sect would completely have the hope of turning the tables. Yi Qing Luo merely shot a glance at old Madam and had already guessed most of what she was thinking in her heart. She sneered as she tugged Yi Fengyu's arm and walked towards the armchair. Without waiting for old Madam to say anything, she sat down directly. Such a disrespectful attitude made old Madam's face sunk as her brows creased and her expression was filled with disgust. This disgust disappeared in a flash. Following that, old Madam's voice turned gentle as she gave an amiable smile. It's been hard on you during this period of time in the academy. In the past, when eldest and second brother came back from the academy, they would need to nourish their bodies for several days. In a while, Grandma will get the maids to bring some nourishing soup for you and your brother. No need. Yi Qing Luo rejected without any hesitation. It's rare for us to have a holiday. I've already promised a few students that for the 3 days of holiday, I will bring Xiao Yu and the rest to have fun outside. Old Madam's amiable expression could no longer be maintained. That pair of slender eyes revealed a thick gloominess. This lass seemed to have grown some ability. Did she think that just because she had the overlord, she could be lawless? He didn't even put him in his eyes. Madame Yuchi saw that the atmosphere had turned gloomy and old Madam's expression turned uglier. She was both happy and apprehensive. What made them happy was that old Grand Madam didn't treat Yi Qing Luo as a treasure just because she had a much stronger ability than Yi Qing Qian, nor because she had the backing of the overlord. But she was apprehensive and worried that old Grand Madam would vent the anger which he was unable to vent on Yi Qing Luo on her. She deliberated over her words for a long time before saying, Miss Qi is still young and a child loves to play. It's rare for her to have a holiday. Since Miss Qi has an appointment with her classmates, let her go. The old ancestor's deep gaze moved towards Madame Yuchi. Madame Yuchi shuddered at the sight of those sinister, snake-like eyes. Fortunately, although the old ancestor's gaze was cold, he didn't say anything else. He was extremely satisfied with Madame Yuchi's words that broke the deadlock. Old Madam nodded her head slightly as her gaze stared straight at Yi Qing Luo. What Madame Yuchi said is right. This 3 days holiday, Grandma will allow you to meet up with your classmates, but the next holiday, you'll have to leave some time for Grandma. If there's a next time, I'll try my best. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up as she scoffed disapprovingly. The frivolous and perfunctory attitude made the wrinkled muscles on the old ancestor's face tremble. She forcefully suppressed the anger in her heart. More and more, she felt that this granddaughter of hers was simply uncontrollable. Madame Yuchi continued to smooth things over as she changed the topic, speaking of classmates. Miss Qi, 8th young master, you haven't told old Madam which class you've entered. She paused for a moment as she gave a fawning smile. But her tone was filled with resentment. Miss Qi's performance in the ability assessment was so outstanding, so you must have been allocated to the high profound class, right? Devil class. Low profound class, second class. The two of them replied at the same time. Chapter 434. Low Low profound class. Madame Yuchi's eyes widened in disbelief, filled with astonishment. 8th young master, based on your aptitude, even if you can't enter the high profound class, you should at least be able to enter the intermediate profound class. Why are you in the low profound class? Because the previous two were Yi Qing Qian and Yi Feng Ru, who had directly entered the high profound class. In their minds, the low profound class was the lowest class. I feel that the low profound class is very good. Yi Feng Yu was roared at and stared at by old Madame's eerie gaze. He felt a chill down his spine as he lowered his head and muttered, I can learn more in the low profound class. I'm the one who asked him to go to the low profound class. Yi Qing Luo interrupted Yi Feng Yu's words in a calm voice. Previously the academy that little Yu attended had completely wasted him. He needs to consolidate his own foundation, and the low profound class is the best place to train his foundation. The reason why she explained was purely because she didn't want to see Madame Yuchi's smirk under the shock and agitate Yi Feng Yu. For a child of Yi Feng Yu's age, his soul was the most fragile and he liked to indulge in flights of fancy. If he really thought that the low profound class was the most useless class under Madame Yuchi's hint, it would possibly strike Yi Feng Yu's intention to consolidate his foundation. However, this explanation, in the ears of old Madame and Madame Yuchi, was an extremely far-fetched excuse. Heavenly Academy's class allocation, how could she just say which class she wanted to go to? Wait, this devil class. What's going on? Old Madame squinted her eyes as she looked at Yi Qing Luo in astonishment. She had heard of Yi Qing Luo's performance during the assessment. She broke the record set by a genius cultivator a few hundred years ago, which was 24 hours. Yi Qing Luo had set a new record, which was 1 hour. 24 hours and 1 hour. This contrast was so obvious. After that, during the ability assessment, she shone brilliantly. This kind of result, how could she be allocated to the devil class, the class that was synonymous with waste? You still want to go out and play with those waste in the devil class? Old Madame's face was ashen as the wooden fish in her hand broke with a bang. Old Madame hated waste the most in her entire life. Although she hated Yi Qing Luo, but Yi Qing Luo still represented the Three Springs sect. He actually entered the devil class. If this was spread out, how would others mock the devil class? The more the old ancestor thought about it, the more he could not conceal the anger on his face. No wonder Yi Qing Luo didn't think of making progress and still wanted to go on holiday. He had been led astray by those trash. Tomorrow, I will go to the elder quarters to have a good chat. Devil class. You must not stay here any longer. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes as her lips curled into a smile which didn't look like a smile. Whether the devil class is trash or not, whether I stay in the devil class or not, it has nothing to do with old ancestor. You. Most importantly. Ancestor, the times are different now. Your words are no longer the same as they were back then. If the Heavenly Academy can be easily persuaded, then it's not worthy of being called the best academy. Old Grand Madame's expression was a mix of green and red. Although what Yi Qing Luo said was indeed the truth, but for a junior to say this in front of her old face couldn't take it. 7th young mistress, what are you saying? Madame Yuchi saw that old Madame was angry and immediately went forward as she gently caressed old Madame's chest and passed her some tea as she turned her head to look at Yi Qing Luo. Old Madame is concerned about you and thinking of your future. If you're not willing, then so be it. Why must you use words to stab old Madame? Old Madame drank a mouthful of tea as she calmed her anger down. A pair of malicious eyes stared coldly at Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she calculated the time. The real show was about to start. She stood up as she gave an extremely elegant smile. If you have the time to care about me, why don't you care more about that eldest young Miss Yi who brings glory to the clan? Chapter 435. What rubbish are you sprouting? Old Madam is fine here, how is it not good? Madame Yuchi's brows creased as her heartbeat sped up. Not knowing why, there was an ominous premonition spreading in her heart. She took a look at old Madam and strode forward as she lifted that follower and gave him 2 tight slaps. That follower cried out in pain as he held his cheek. It's not that old Madam is not good, it's eldest young miss. What did you say? On hearing that it was Yi Qing Qian, Madame Yuchi's expression suddenly congealed as she tugged the follower's collar. What did you say? What happened to Qian? The follower was so frightened that he trembled. Eldest young miss. Eldest young miss was carried back by the royal family's men. Crown Prince was carried by the side and Eunuch Chang received the imperial edict. Madame Yuchi's face turned pale as she staggered backwards. Her mind was filled with the words of her daughter being carried back. Old Madam was still considered calm, but the expression on her face was filled with viciousness. A pair of icy cold eagle eyes looked at Yi Qing Luo, as though she was suspecting if this matter was caused by her. Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched as she looked at her calmly with a, I don't know what's the situation, expression. Old Madam stood up in doubt as she stared at Madame Yuchi, who seemed as though she had lost her soul. Useless fellow. Quickly help me out to receive the imperial edict. Madame Yuchi seemed as though she had just awoken from a dream as she hurriedly supported old Madam as the 2 of them hurriedly walked out of the main hall to receive the imperial edict. Sister. Surely it can't be. Yi Fengyu had participated in this matter previously, and when he heard Yi Qing Qian being carried back, his expression changed slightly. You can just pretend that you don't know anything. Yi Qing Luo raised her finger as she placed it on her brother's mouth. Your sister is helping the Yi family to realize a beautiful dream. Indeed, it was realizing a dream. But this dream wasn't beautiful at all. As what Yi Qing Luo had expected, it was exactly the same. In the Crown Prince Palace, the aphrodisiac which Leng Fenghua wanted to use on Yi Qing Luo was multiplied by several times, and made Leng Fenghua drink it himself. The moment he touched a woman, he was like a ferocious beast. How could he stop? Yi Qing Luo's kick had specially sent Leng Fenghua to where Yi Qing Qian was hiding. Everything that happened after that happened naturally. In the first place, there was no brotherly love between the royal family because of the power struggle. The second prince had long wanted to find a chance to get rid of Leng Fenghua and replace him. Now that he heard that Yi Qing Luo had prepared a huge gift for him, he found the best excuse right now. Crown Prince as the Crown Prince, he should set an example and not provoke Yi Qing Qian while maintaining the engagement with Yi Qing Luo. These pedantic old ministers had long been displeased with Leng Fenghua and Yi Qing Qian's matter. Now that the second prince had taken the lead, he was naturally happy to go. In his heart, he felt that the second prince was a reasonable person who valued brotherhood. Thus, with the second prince leading the 3 old ministers, they majestically made their way to the Crown Prince Palace. After seeing the group of people coming, the 2 gatekeepers fell to the ground on the spot. Seeing this situation, the few old ministers realized that something was amiss and immediately broke the door open. In the entire Crown Prince Palace, not a single sound was heard and not a single attendant or maid was seen. Second prince had long received Yi Fengyu's instructions and intentionally led the 3 old ministers to the garden. After that, the entire garden was set up with a long table. The delicacies on the table were scattered all over the ground. Whereas in everyone's ears, they could obviously hear that man's rough growl and panting which made one blush. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.